Welcome to Uniting the Cults, another episode of Why is Everybody Stupid? This one asks, could God be evil? So suppose God exists, just for argument's sake. Could God be evil? Explain your view. And a couple notes. I hope this becomes a group discussion where everybody is addressing the replies, not just me. And I intend to make a video discussing the comments. I said those things to help people talk more. So let's see if they did. This person says, this doesn't need an argument, just play Sims. Sims is a game. I don't know if this person was being serious, but other people took him seriously, him or her. So here's the seriousness. He's asking you to invoke your own thought of, would you be evil if there are no consequences and the beings you are being evil to are just random simulated pixels? So I said, that's a different question than what I was asking. Because this person is saying, would you be evil? I'm asking, could God be evil? So it's like they're asking, they're supposing God could be evil, and then would he? So that's why I clarified here. They apparently didn't understand. So he explains the Sims game. So I'm clarifying now. I don't think you understood my question. You're answering a different question. You're answering, if God exists, and if that God could do evil, would he do evil? I'm not asking that. I'm asking this instead. If God exists, could he do evil? It's a step earlier than the step you're thinking of. So this person says, you just answered your own question by giving another question. If God exists, and if that God could do evil, there you go. What the hell does that have to do with anything? Is that the same different person replying? That could be the thing causing the confusion. So I say, I don't know what you're saying, and I don't know why you're misunderstanding me. Oh, this is a different person. So I was replying as if it's the same person. That's not helpful. They said, there isn't much to develop on the answer. If a God exists, he could do evil. Not sure what kind of effort you need to make to develop this. Edit. Forgot to mention that it's my point of view. So he's saying, if God exists, he could do evil, but he's not giving reasoning. Let me just reply again because he never replied. Why do you believe that? All right. It's been historically proven that God of Abraham is a war God who is not rainbow and sunshines as his followers make him out to be. I wouldn't be surprised that he loves when his followers wage war in his name. There is more info about Yahweh on Wikipedia. By the way, to your question, he's not evil. He's invoked for every matter when he has a certain specialty. He doesn't answer the question. He just says he is not evil. He's not saying he can't be evil. I don't know what the difference is. Maybe I should just ask, why do you believe he's not evil? My opinion, being evil is relative. Let's assume a lion kills a deer. From the deer's perspective, the lion is evil, but if the lion had allowed the deer to escape, he would have starved to death. In this case, is the lion evil? I don't know why people say stuff like this. Good and evil has to do with beings that even have a capability to decide good and evil. Lions don't have that ability. So we may think that there must be good for every evil in the universe, but there are pure evils in nature. Okay, so continuing. There are many evils in the universe that we cannot control, such as disasters or genetic diseases. Okay, so I'm not sure my idea came across, so let me explain further. Can God break his own rules? So here's what I'm doing here. Since I think he didn't even understand what I meant by evil. So now I'm trying to go with a different question that doesn't use that word. So I asked, can God break his own rules? And just to be clear to everyone, with this kind of thing, now that's a new kind of question, but related, this spawned its own line of discussion and then its own Reddit post, and it's going to be its own video. And I will do that one right after this one. I thought maybe to put it in the same video, but I think separate videos is better. So the person says, things we call evil in the universe. Okay. So skipping ahead. I don't think I get this question right. Can you explain? So I replied with a full post explaining it, and they didn't reply. Let's see what I wrote real quick. Yeah, I'll just do it later. They didn't reply. Whatever. This person says, an evil God, or more likely an indifferent or playful but uninvested God, is the reason I am agnostic rather than atheist. I think an evil God is less likely, as the world could definitely be a lot worse. But let's imagine a God that logs into his reality like a game. It plays for a bit, it does some stuff, maybe establishes a large dominion from an unfavorable starting position, but then gets bored and logs out, like me when I almost win Civ 5 or any other game. Civ 5 is a good game. Civ 6 is pretty good. Can't wait for Civ 7. Or a God that really doesn't give a shit at all. Somehow, occasionally, contact is made, either accidentally or through some individual's effort, and God gives some help just because, but not much. Just because isn't an answer to anything. It's like how children say, when somebody asks them why something, and they just say, because. Both of those could, to some extent, correlate with humanity's situation as it is. Could also be multiple extra dimensional entities that occasionally fuck with us, accounting for some totally different religions. They mean like demons? They believe demons are possible? You could also think about, like, quote, universal consciousness or first cause type gods, but that's straying away from the God with intentional action, which I feel would be needed for your question. Yes. Yes. Note that I don't think that's the case, but those are hard to disprove, in my opinion. So, again, if we're at a impasse on specifically the question, could God be evil? And I don't know that we are here, but I'm just trying it. Can God break his own rules? So in a specific scenario or in general, I'd say yes, it can. To use the game analogy again, we often choose to limit ourselves to the rules and then win because it's more satisfying that way. So he's saying that God, if he's real, could do anything, even contradict himself. Yep. And he didn't reply. Other people did reply to that kind of thing. This person says he definitely can be considered that he has no standards except those he makes. Also note that an omnipotent God that is the origin of every aspect of creation would probably be a nihilistic being with no thought or process. A Schrodinger's cat, per se. Quran is a perfect book says, I think my virtue of being separate from the universe and the unknown of what omnipotence would be like it may be equally unknowable what sort of relationship it would have, nihilistic or otherwise. There simply isn't evidence or a way to open the box to see the cat inside just yet, and may never be. So I reply to the earlier person, I'm trying to understand your view. Can God break his own rules? And they say, of course. The thing is that nothing can tell us how a God like that would behave by assuming how the Quran applied. So he's mentioning the Quran. So I said, forget Islam. I didn't mention Islam in the OP. I'm talking about a being that created the universe. Let's call that God. Could that being break the laws of nature that he created? And this is another way that I'm saying it. Like, that's a way to break your own rules or to have contradictions. And they say, sure, why not? So I said, doesn't that introduce contradictions? I'm asking these questions because I don't know if they're thinking in terms of contradictions. They say it does. So they are thinking in terms of contradictions. But a being like you described would be the one to decide everything, like what the contradictions will be, why they will be, or will they be at all. So I say, so you think a universe could exist that has contradictory laws of nature? And you think that just because a God made it, wouldn't you rather say that a universe with contradictory laws of nature cannot exist, and so it's not possible for a God to create such a universe? So they said, a God that made something from nothing should have transcendence over the laws of nature, and as long as it supports this system, it would endure. Though both scenarios are equally possible, when dabbling with something that is beyond logic, like your God, it is impossible to know what can or can't be done. So by your logic, do you agree it implies that there can't be a God? They said it implied that God can and cannot exist. In all honesty, I do not believe in the concept of God, but it's not something you can disprove if the God is portrayed as a non-personal absolute being. Aha. I think we are getting to this. Well, disprove with what, though? So let's see. Are you thinking there aren't theories that people make invoking God, and those theories have contradictions? In which case we reject those theories because they contain contradictions? In that case, then yes, we do reject them because God is just another word for we don't know. So it must be something beyond comprehension. It's a catch-all term that doesn't work. And what I mean by a non-personal absolute God is this: a being that is unconnected to existence and exists beyond it. In this case, we can't disprove that my proposition doesn't exist, but we also can't prove it exists. Another thing like this is how there is a theory that our universe is in a black hole. We can't say it's not real or if it's fake. And with these things, we might never know. So by your logic, we can't refute Santa Claus? I'm not sure I understand what you're saying. What I'm trying to say is that God is like Schrodinger's cat, in which you never see anything going in the box. The only thing you can do is guess, and you will never have a definitive answer because there's no one to confirm your answer. You can only speculate until the box opens. And until we somehow open the box that supposedly contains God, we can never know if we are right or wrong. That's the paradox of a God and why we can't ever say that it is real or not. So I say, this is not what we do in science, for your information. We regularly refute scientific theories by philosophical criticism. And for any theory that doesn't survive that scrutiny, we do not try to empirically refute it because it's already refuted. Also, we can't. You can't design an experiment to refute something when that theory contradicts itself, because what it means for a theory to contradict itself is it makes contradictory predictions. If it makes contradictory predictions, you can't make an experiment. So I say, we don't waste our time and money on nonsense like that. Note also, it's impossible to create a valid experiment for a theory that has contradictions. Yes. So they say, yes, science doesn't do that, but we are talking about a potential thing that is unbound by reasoning and logic. Why would, yeah. So here, why would you even consider that? What I mean is, so God is a theory. People made it. We don't have, if God exists, we don't have direct access to it. All we have access to is our knowledge about it, which is just our theories. So this is like saying this theory is not bound by reason and logic. Fuck that. That's stupid as hell. Every theory is bound by reason and logic. Thinking otherwise is mythology. A theory like that, a theory like, say, that of God, it will definitely have contradictions due to the very nature of what we are trying to describe. Okay, so false then, right? But a theoretical God existing wouldn't matter at all because a being like that would probably be nihilistic in nature. An experiment for a potential God is impossible because we are trying to describe and comprehend and understand something that logic doesn't work on. We don't need to invest time or money figuring out if God exists because we never can. And that's why God will only remain an unprovable hypothesis that also can't be proven. You cannot describe something that defies logic and the very laws of nature, and you can never prove it or disprove it. It will always remain in the realm of possibility, nothing more or less. But if it defies logic, why aren't you using that to decide that it is bullshit? That's how rational thinking works. Yes. So I say, I don't agree. We're talking about theories and whether or not the theories adhere to reality. The God theory is a theory about reality. We should check it for flaws. If it even has a single flaw, it's refuted, and it seems you found one. He said, God theory isn't a scientific theory, though. I'm sure you know what a scientific theory is, and we have no proof for a God existing. It is a hypothesis. And yes, that was the point. God theory is not a proper or even good scientific theory, and it is just a hypothesis. And due to the very nature of the hypothesis, it is bound to have no evidence for it. Theories always will adhere to reality if they have good and proper proofs. Theories like God theory will never be true and always be in the realm of possibility. I don't know why they're using the word possibility. It's not possible. You're ignoring what I said initially, which is that we refute theories for having philosophical flaws before even considering whether to try to refute them with an experiment. This one is refuted by philosophical flaws. So they say, okay, it can be, but I tend to not use philosophical flaws. So I say, you can change that. And they say, probably should, but we will see about it. So I say, to be clear, you were using some philosophical criticism already, but I guess you didn't recognize it as philosophical criticism. So they say, can you tell me where I used philosophical criticism? I am genuinely intrigued. So I gave an example. I quoted him. He said, theories like God theory will never be true and will always be in the realm of possibility. This is philosophy, and it is pointing out a flaw in some other idea, trying to. And that's what a criticism is. So it is a philosophical criticism. Thanks for telling me. And I just wanted to clarify. I was only differentiating between two kinds of criticism: philosophical criticism and empirical criticism. The difference is only that one of them factors in some piece of empirical evidence, while the other does not. So anytime you give a criticism that does not mention any empirical evidence, that's a case of you giving philosophical criticism. Somebody says, I would argue that Allah is not the God of Abraham found in the Bible, but let's just keep things simple. Allah creates humanity in order to send the vast majority of it in eternal hellfire. Of course, Allah is evil. If this is a God, then it is man's duty to revolt against it. So I said, I didn't ask about Islam's conception of God. Can you try to answer about that? Here's another helper question. Can God break his own rules? So this person says, you mean breaking his own promises? If he were able to do so, he wouldn't be God. So I'm not sure what he means by promises here. I said, well, I was thinking of laws of nature. Can God break the laws of nature that he created? You know, like bending the rules to do something for or against someone. They say, I think that's just called a miracle. So I said, let's suppose there's a being that created the universe. Could that being do miracles? They say a miracle is a divine intervention on earth recognized as such. For example, the helicopter crash or the Turkish deputy dying of a cardiac arrest the minute he curses Israel. Those are miracles. Everyone must recognize them as such, regardless of beliefs and faiths. I don't know what the fuck he's saying here. Maybe they're saying he believes in miracles. I'm just asking to understand what you believe. A miracle has to be one because it goes beyond beliefs. Your eyes will recognize a miracle as such. I don't know what the fuck's that's going. So maybe your beliefs are wrong, and if you fix your beliefs, then you won't see it as a miracle. And none of that makes sense. So they're not answering me, so I'm trying to figure out why. You asked what a miracle is, but I didn't ask what a miracle is. I didn't ask what a miracle is. I asked why they believe miracles are possible. So they said, I'm answering you that it doesn't matter what you and I or the Pope and Putin's wife believe. A miracle is what has to be recognized as such by everyone who's witnessed it. This is the definition of a miracle. I said, I never asked what a miracle is. They said, amazing conversation. I said, I even reviewed the previous discussion to check. Did you? I guess you didn't review our discussion. If you had reviewed it, you would have learned that I never asked you what a miracle is. I only asked you why you believe that miracles are a real thing. Or rather, why you believe that if God existed, then miracles and when you said amazing conversation, you're insinuating that the problem is on my end, but clearly it's on your end. To be clear in my argument, it doesn't matter what caused the coincidence or the supernatural phenomenon. What matters is that for a moment, the entire world admits the possibility of divine intervention. This admission will last up until a material explanation comes forward. I picked the example. Oh my God. No. So you think supernatural phenomenon are actual real things? Note, scientists don't think that way. We see all supernatural phenomenon as superstition. Meaning nonsense. No, scientific thinkers do not do that. I think, yeah, that's enough for now.